welcome to Lunch and Learn. Today we're working on talking about more about active learning. This is part 2 in the series of active learning. This one we're focusing in on individual and group work and really talking about some ideas and strategies to help support those parts of your active learning journey here.
My tech is loving me. There we go.
And I'm Laura Thompson. I'm an instructional designer at Stanton. Although I am flexible and portable, I tend to go wherever I'm needed as well. So sometimes I'm on other campuses, but you can always reach me through Teams or email. Please make sure that you reach out if you need any support. And I am joined by...
I'm Jenna Cinnamon. I'm also an instructional designer with Laura. We're both based out of the Stanton campus, and we're really excited you were able to join us for part 2 of active learning. If you weren't able to join our first session, by all means, please take a look at our recording. Today, we're going to build upon that, and we're really looking forward to exploring and putting some of these into action with you. We're going to start today's session by revisiting what is active learning. We're going to add to our working definition and our understanding before we take a look at a few specific active learning strategies. We're going to put you in the student seat as well and show a couple different tools that we think would be a great benefit to your classroom. And we hope that you walk away with some additional resources, and we'll have Q&A at the end. Throughout this presentation, we love that you interact with us, so please feel free to participate in the chat or come off of mute, because honestly, what makes Lunch and Learn even more valuable is the ideas and the collaboration that you guys all bring to the meeting, and that's how we really can learn from each other and continue to grow our practice. So to kick off our lesson today, we want you to take a look at this quote. "Learning is an active process. We learn by doing. Only knowledge that is used sticks in your mind." What do you think about this quote, or what does it make you think about? What comes to mind? You could put it in the chat or come off of mute.
Well, I like to see that word active there, and that it's not passive where the student or attendee or whatever is supposed to just kind of passively sit there and hope to absorb things. But actively participating can, make it stick better, and that makes total sense.
You're absolutely right. And I know I've personally been guilty of talking at students at times, right? And I have to remember that that's very passive and it's not giving them the chance to contribute. That was awesome, Andrea. Anyone else have anything? Oh, Megan, she agrees. I think it's when I remember things and really learn them. Right, when we get to do and be in the driver's seat. True statement from my perspective, Kelly shared, including my own learning style. Yes. And I think Laura did a phenomenal job planning this session today, because we are going to let you do and not just listen to us throughout the presentation as well. Laura, do you have anything to add?
I think that those are good points. One of the reasons when we put this quote on this slide also, one of the reasons we didn't present it as the paragraph form that it could have been and made it look like 3 distinct statements is because by doing this, it also could trigger that kind of comprehension, that interaction with the statement as a singular unit, to recognize not just this bundle of words, but to recognize these units of meaning. Learning is an active process. We learn by doing, and only knowledge that is used sticks in your mind. And that's why we're really talking about those active learning opportunities to help kind of break up any lectures, but to also help students to process all that information that they're getting from you.
Can I add something too? Most of our degrees are associate and applied science degrees. And that's really a differentiator when students go out in the field to get a job.
That's an excellent point, Celeste. Thank you so much for saying that.
And, I want to give a call at what Christina said, because Christina is right. We all have content to cover. We all have things that cram our semesters that we need to, inform our students of. And if you weren't able to join us last week, and we're going to touch on it briefly today too, is Laura put together a beautiful continuum of active learning strategies. There are some that are so simple that you just kind of have to think about it in advance and where they're going to fit. But no, Christina, you're right. It does take some careful consideration of where do you want to implement the strategy during your lesson. I think that's really important to mention too.
And I hear her too, because Christina's comment was that it stresses me out, honestly. I strive to achieve this, but there's so much content to get to. And it's that idea of needing to cover material. But if we're not able to help our students to process it, to really integrate it into their thinking and be able to implement it later, then as much content as they have, if they're not able to use it, as Celeste pointed out with the applied degrees, that's one of the reasons we're trying to do this. But Christina, you're absolutely right, because you have certain standards that you're trying to reach, certain CCPOs, MPOs that you're trying to establish. And it's finding that delicate balance between the two. So you're giving them all the content that they need, but also in a way that they can digest it and use it in the future. And you're right, it is a delicate balance. You're right.
And today with active learning, we're going to revisit some of the things we talked about last session and also provide you with more strategies that you can implement in your own practice. Active learning includes any type of instructional activity that engages the students in the learning that's beyond listening, reading, or simply memorizing. We looked at that continuum last week because some of these simple strategies, like one that came to mind is the 3-2-1 or the think, pair, share. There's little to no planning on the instructor part besides that brain power, that capacity, the cognitive load of deciding where and when am I going to use them. So today we're going to look at a few more simple strategies that even use some tech, if you'd like to, that you can easily add to your lessons. And we hope that you can walk away with committing to trying one of them that we share today.
And also what I'm hoping is with these simpler looking strategies and recognizing that continuum of things that take just a little bit of time versus ones that take a lot of time can help Christina feel just a little bit more relieved, because a lot of these should only take maybe a minute to 5 minutes. It's not supposed to be something that we think about when we think about the interactive learning, where we have huge investments in time with demonstrations or case studies. Those are also examples of active learning. But really, the ones that we're trying to talk about today also are ones that we're hoping could take just somewhere between a minute to 5, maybe a minute to 10, but just something that can help process that learning with your students. And we can use these with individuals or with groups. So active learning, a lot of the strategies we'll show today, we're going to be talking a lot about groups, but most of them can be also implemented with individuals. So we'll talk about the way that it looks across modalities as well. We have in-person classes, we have Zoom classes, we have asynchronous, and sometimes we even have a hybrid or a high flex class somewhere in there. We have a few examples, but we'll talk about how it could look different according to the modality in which you're using it. And the first one we have is the Post-it parade. So this Post-it parade, this description is definitely a face-to-face description to start with, because you need a big stack of stickies, right? A big stack of Post-it notes. And you give students a few little Post-it notes, and then you ask them a question. Maybe the question is, how did you use the information you learned in Thursday's class in real life over the weekend? And then on the Post-it notes that students have, they record their answers, and then they put them in a designated spot on the wall somewhere. And then another step that you can take that can take it just a little bit further is you could have students analyze the Post-its that are there to categorize them. So the Post-its could be categorized due to a theme or due to the time. Or for instance, in the example of what did you do with the information over the weekend, maybe this is how they use it at home, this is how they use it at work, this is how they use it with their family. Maybe those are your categories. Jenna has a really great example of how she's used this before in her classroom.
So one of my favorite activities that I would do to start off a semester was to have different stations with different questions around my classroom. This was an in-person, and students were able to take their stickies and respond to the different questions that were around the room. At the end, they were put into groups and everyone was assigned a different section or question, and they were able to read through all the different sticky notes. They were charged with organizing them, looking for any common themes that may have come up in the notes, or to put them in order. It was completely up to them how they'd like to organize and then share out with the class what they were able to find. And I know I've used something similar even in my Zoom sessions of my course. We were able to do so with the Zoom whiteboard, something very similar, and divided it into a 4 square so students could respond to different questions and poke them into different parts of the board as well. Thanks, Laura.
And you can tell just from that description of what Jenna said, or from the description of this post-it parade in general, how much time it might take. So really, if you're just kind of collecting those answers and you review them later, then that's a very short activity, but it gets them actively involved. If we're going through the categorizing, it takes a little bit more. You have to decide what serves your purpose, your instructional purposes for this activity as well. The great thing is we can also, even though we talked about a big stack of stickies, we can talk about how this can happen in other modalities as well. So for your synchronous, for instance, in your Zoom classes or even your async, you can use this with a piece of technology. And Jen and I were talking about it. You can even use this in person. Sometimes we forget when we're in person that as long as our students have access to technology, whether it's a laptop or a phone, they can participate in some of these activities as well. And we can use the digital technology to enhance what we're doing or to quickly collect what we need in a really fun and interesting way. We like Jamboard a lot and we love to use Jamboard, but Jamboard unfortunately is going away in December. So if Jamboard is something that you love, it's important to start looking for some alternatives because it is going away at the end of the year. However, you do have until December 31st to continue using it. But we wanted to be able to show you Padlet. Now, a quick response in the chat. Give us a thumbs up or a heart, a smiley face, something like that. A yes, I guess, if you've used Padlet before, if you have some familiarity with it. Oh, I see a love Padlet. Yes. Smiley face. Some, yes. Okay, excellent. Padlet gives you a limited amount before you prompt to pay. That's true
It's
with your
true.
list. Used it as a participant. Oh, so Andrea, you've used it from that other side. Excellent.
Yes.
Terrific. So we're going to talk about Padlet today, but here's something really neat. They just released a bunch of new features as well. So this is not your grandmother's Padlet. So let's dive in.
Oh, if you've not heard of Padlet before, it's a visual board for organizing and sharing content. You can create this digital bulletin board where you can post ideas, images, videos, and they can all be shared very quickly and easily. There's some great features that have always existed. And then, like Laura said, a lot of really new cool tools, including so many new templates and how you can even use AI to help you develop some ideas for the postings or the boards as well. When you start with Padlet from the instructor end, you can have a blank slate and make it your own, or you can use one of the templates. From there, you can personalize the text, add images and videos, and so can your participants. And we're going to demonstrate that in just a moment. You can share out with just dropping a URL. And honestly, I think Padlet has a fit in all modalities. When it comes to mind, and even in person, it's a quick, easy way to get all your students engaged without them having to always get out of their seats, and they can still see and collaborate with each other on this online board. I know one of my personal favorites with the Padlet is at the end. I would even screenshot it so I could post it to my D2L course and an announcement or a recap for my students so they could revisit what they shared with their classmates. So we're going to do a little bit of a tour, and I'm going to use one of the boards that Laura has actually created. So let me
I have
take
to
a
tell you, a new
look.
feature that came through with Padlet also is that you can export to PDF in 3 different kind of formats too. So that's really kind of a new thing that I hadn't seen before. So I'm really excited about that update as well.
That's a good call out. Thank you for that. I honestly didn't even think about that.
All
So
right.
Laura, can
Oh,
you walk us through how you created this first? Like, did you make this from scratch or did you use a template?
this one was a template. So excitedly enough, this one had it said an I like, I wish, and then it had
Sorry, lo
Make the
siento.
screen bigger. It's too small for me to see. Sorry.
I am
No, no, I
trying.
wonder.
You're right.
So no, no, I'm
Right.
good. I probably should break down and get some glasses. But anyway, so when I pulled this up, I was thinking about this prompt, what I think about active learning, and I really liked this template to work with it. Well, I like this part about it. I wish I knew this, or I wish this was true, or I wonder about this. I wonder what could happen next. So that's how I pulled this up. This actually was an existing template. And it came with answers in it. So I deleted the answers from it because it was a template for something else, a different topic. And then that first one that you see on the left-hand side with the little sunflower in it, if you want to scroll down just a little bit, yeah, then you can see I created it to be kind of a directions one so that if someone was going to enter this Padlet, they could see the directions. They can hit the plus under the category, then they can type their idea there, their post, and then they can choose publish. But you notice there's a sunflower picture there. It lets you put in a picture or a video or an image, all kinds of things. And one of the things it says is, I can't draw. And that's an AI feature, an artificial intelligence invitation. So in that post, I put in there the sentence that I wrote in and what I asked it to do in order to make the sunflower. I asked it for an expressive oil painting of a sunflower in a field of grass. And it gave me 4 choices, and this is the one I chose. The only reason I put a variety and I put timing postings there was just to demonstrate that you could have postings in any of the categories. Now, here's the exciting part. You don't have to just look at this and go, oh, Laura, that's lovely. You get a chance to participate. Jenna's going to show you. We know we have some people who've done Padlet before, so she's going to go ahead and kind of go through it briefly. How do you put your choice in there? And then we're going to give you the link so that you can get in there and put yours in, please.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. And I love that you pinned the instructions. That's really nice that it'll stay at the top so everyone
That's a
can
new
see that.
feature.
I love that. So I want to add I wish, and I can click the plus sign and it pops up with what I want to say. So I like a sentence starter. I wish I had a resource with a variety of strategies to use. So from here, I could add a picture and I can take a picture myself if I wanted to do so. I can add a link. I can search for a photo, or I can add one in myself. So I searched for a beautiful sunrise. Maybe I want to put that, feeling some summer vibes, and I can hit submit. Now, when you do this, it's kind of like a social media platform. Participants can go through and like and comment on each other's postings. And it's nice because I can actually edit it. So if I realized I put it in the wrong spot, or I made a mistake, or I wanted to revise my thinking, I can just hit the 3 dots and edit it. I can also change down here where it says, I wish. I can change which section that I could put it under. And I simply change it. Maybe I'm going to change it to purple, and I can hit submit. So students have the ability to edit, and I think that's really nice sometimes if I post something and I'm unsure, or I see a spelling mistake that I'm too embarrassed by. So just using this as a tool in the classroom, you can share it on your screen so everyone can see it real time, or they'll also see it themselves as you're going to demonstrate in just a moment. I'm going to drop in the chat the link to this Padlet, and we would love if you could visit the site for us and add a sticky note to our board. I'm going to zoom out just
Now, how you mentioned it's kind of like it has the social media kind of feel there because you can do the like and the comment. When I created it, I can enable that or not allow those also. So if you're in a group and the types of comments that are going to go there, you don't think that it helps the group to say that they like or to be able to comment on each other, then you don't have to turn those features on. It's lovely.
No, I love that. And the same thing for approval. You can make it so you have to approve the post before they go live. That's a feature I've used at times if I wanted to give everyone a chance to think before they saw everyone else's responses.
And there's a new feature that AI will look at some of it for you too. You can turn it on for an auto approval so that if someone puts, say, a bad word in there, it'll catch it and it doesn't post it.
Someone said they can't wait for summer. Same. I'm ready for the warm weather, as you can tell. Let's go. I wish I could keep old Padlets to help remember what I did last year. You're absolutely right. And maybe the feature that Laura shared about like downloading it as a PDF and you could add it as a resource in your D2L and like hide the page, maybe that could be a great way to remember which ones you used. Right. I know Celeste made a good point. There is only a limited amount you can create with the free version. Ready to pack my bag. I think we're all ready. Let's see. I like learning and getting to hear ideas from others. Absolutely. And I know sometimes it's hard to make time for that, especially in the higher ed world. So we appreciate you guys joining us. Can you show us where we can export to a PDF? I do not believe I have access because this is not my Padlet, but let me see. Oh, I do. So even as a participant, I can click the share icon at the top right. Oh, good question, Jessica. I'm still going to show. I hope that's okay. And then it says export as a PDF. You can save as an image. And oh, it even has a version of slides in case you want to put it in one of your presentations to revisit on the next lesson. I love that. Thank you for calling
handout
that out.
version, which I haven't
Yeah.
played with yet. I don't know what it looks like, but
Well, we're going to try.
yeah,
I
we're
mean,
gonna
might as
try
well.
that.
Might as well. We learn together, don't we? Oh, this looks great. So it still has the section headings. And yeah, it is a great feature. And it tells me the different posts and they're separated by a line. And there's even a link. So it's a hyperlinked PDF that even takes me precisely to that comment. Interesting. This is a nice little feature. Oh man, I went out of it though, and then it got out of luck. Let me pull it back up over here. So this is a great, it even includes all the images, which I love. Thank you for asking that question, Jessica, and thank you for pointing this out, Laura. I think that's perfect. See if we have any more responses before we move on. Oh, I like how this will increase student engagement. Yes, because I know personally, I didn't love to always participate in front of others. Like, let's be honest, or maybe it's been a long day and you're doing a night class. This is a low-key way that people can contribute to the conversation without feeling put on the spot. Is there anything fantastic in the pro version? I'll be honest, we do not have pro versions ourselves, so we've not dabbled in that realm. That's a great question.
You can make more.
Yeah. Right. Got a few emails
beyond that. I don't know.
That's a great call out. All right. Well, we appreciate all of you guys diving into that. We're going to bounce back over to a few more examples and we'll have another opportunity to engage in an interactive in just a couple moments.
And I did want to point out also for that conversation that how Jenna had said it's nice because maybe if you don't feel comfortable presenting in front of the group, we're remembering we're meeting the needs of all of our students. So sometimes it's because maybe we're a little introverted and we don't feel like talking in front of the group, but sometimes it's because we want to process our thoughts. We really need to think more deeply about what we want to say. And when we type it out, we can kind of process it. It also helps your language learners in your classroom too, because they have that opportunity to use a little bit of spell check if they want, to be able to share their ideas without worrying about how their English might sound as well. And so it helps a variety of students to be able to participate. That's why sometimes these things, even though we don't always think about them for our in-person students, it can still be a really valuable way to enhance their interactions within the classroom. All right, so let's talk about a couple more ideas. So we have a pro-con grid here is the first idea. And really, I don't know about you, but sometimes for major decisions in my life, I've created a pros cons board before. But this is helping your students think about that strategy. So you have a topic in your class and you have and you give students that topic and you split them into groups and have them determine at least 3 pros and 3 cons for whatever that debatable idea is. And maybe it's one of the ones that was always classic was, wearing uniforms in school. Or maybe it is having the food carts come back outside of Stanton. We don't have our lunch trucks anymore, something like that. But then debrief and the idea is then you debrief those listed pros and cons as a class, or you at least have a conversation about them. So it's at some point in time being able to really not only go through it for the process sake, but now we're sharing amongst each other, because you can raise the level of this activity again by having them maybe rate those pros and cons. Which ones are the most important pros? Which ones are the most important cons? And so which idea should we go with? These can be a lovely way, both of these activities, Pro-Con Grid and the Snowball, are a lovely way that you can raise that level of thinking depending upon the needs of your group and your content and your topic. When you look at Snowball, you present the question to students, but you give students a time individually to list their reactions or their comments, their responses for about a minute. So it's just a minute investment there. Then you have students pair and determine 3 points of agreement that they have across those reactions, comments, or answers. So where do they agree with each other? Then you have those pairs pair with another, so making a 4-person group, and they choose amongst all of those 3 points of agreement between them. This really helps them look at evaluation, how can they be evaluative, how can they conduct analysis, and how can they increase their discussion skills. So these two are, again, ones that could take maybe about 3, 5, 10 minutes at the most. You don't want to spend an exaggerated amount of time with this, but it's enough to help students process what they're learning and engage in some of those higher order thinking skills of evaluating or synthesizing the information.
I like how you mentioned the time investment, because you're right. That's kind of an important part of when we're planning out our lesson and our courses of how much time do we have to dedicate to these different activities, for sure. So our next one is going to kind of focus on a collaborative feature that you can use in Google Drive. You can actually even use the Microsoft products if that's what you choose to use. And we're going to talk about social annotation. So thinking about annotating on a piece of paper, you can have a shared document or PDF, and we'll talk about that, where students can collaborate. Maybe they're highlighting main ideas, maybe they're identifying key vocabulary, and they can even comment back and forth. This could even work, I could picture it in a course where students complete a piece of writing. They could share their writing with others and receive that feedback for the revision process through comments with others as well. It also can help encourage their reading comprehension, their note-taking, and honestly, their analysis as they're maybe reviewing works of others or just course content. So we're going to kind of walk through the Google process of this today. And one of our favorite things when Laura and I were discussing this is that it can truly be used in any modality, even high flex. We know high flex is in a small cohort still, but using these collaborative features of Google or Microsoft lets any person anywhere collaborate on a shared item, whether it's a document or slides, all at the same time. Anything you have to add, Laura, before I share my other screen?
Or even asynchronously. So sometimes if you have that thought at 3 in the morning, no one else is around in your group, but you have this link to your shared document, you can at least put the comment there so that they can find it when they wake up at, 9 or whatever. Who knows what hours they keep.
I love that. No, you're absolutely right. We all work on different schedules, that's for sure. So we're going to take a look at my messy Google Drive. Okay, this is my messy Google Drive. Laura shared with me a PDF, and I'm going to simply open it. So I have a PDF in my Google Drive already. This is an article that she was using for one of her courses, and at the top it says open with, and I can click Google Docs and it will instantly convert it to a Google Doc file for me. Now, this is not foolproof, and this is something that we want to be honest about all of this with you. A PDF, you can't always just convert it perfectly. You do need to take time to review what you've converted to make sure it all converted accurately. Like, for example, I can see the word prominent. It separated those words. So maybe I want to backspace it so it completes the word. If I scroll down some more, there's actually some numbers and tables. There was a graphic. this didn't convert well. So this is a part that I'd probably exclude from my lesson and when I share this out with my students. So it's a great feature that Google has to take your PDF and convert it to a doc, but it does still need human intervention that we take a couple seconds and look over it.
And that's mainly for accessibility purposes. So if you are giving it to a group and they would need to be able to access it with a screen reader, that screen reader would be reading gobbledygook. It wouldn't be able to process that well at all.
No. And I love that you mentioned that because even just yesterday, Laura and I were testing this out ourselves with my screen reader to see that it read the columns correctly and that it flowed. And that's a great item that you can always install yourself as a screen reader, and you can always double check to make sure the experience is the one you want your students to have. Now, we're going to put you in the driver's seat again and ask you to annotate on top of our document. So I'm going to click my share button. And I'm going to edit it to anyone with my link. And this time I'm going to make you guys all an editor. There might be some activities where you just want them to be commenters. So maybe a student sharing their writing with their classmates to get feedback on. They probably just want to be commenters. You don't want them to actually edit anything. I'm going to let everyone be an editor today. And I'm going to drop this in the chat and ask that you open up this document with us. And I'll know people are showing up when it pops in all the beautiful pictures at the top. Awesome. Everyone's getting there. All right. Now, I want you just to find any word on page 1. So page 1, any word on page 1, and use the highlight tool from the toolbar at the top and highlight any word. Try to make it a color that's accessible. So think about colors that have a good contrast, like a yellow or a bright green. Phenomenal. All of us are in there. Now we're going to do the comment feature. So I want you to find a different word. And when you click on the different word, look to the side that pops up, and I want you to add a comment. Put anything you want in the box. Oh, Laura, so independent. I love it. We got some reactions, smiley faces. Yeah. So this is so fast and easy. And this is an active learning strategy that can be simple or complex. When Laura and I were planning this, we even talked about how you could have different groups, and each group has their own document that they're working on. And then you, as the owner of the document, can pop into each of them to kind of see what they're doing, what they're working on. These features also work in Google Slides as well. I love it. Look at all of you guys. I can't, oh my gosh, Christina, that just made my whole day. If everyone can go find Christina's, and we can click on the reaction and add some, or we can even put some more. And this is just a really fun way. And once again, just in case something shows up that maybe you don't agree with or want to be seen, you can always see the edit history and see who has done what on these boards or these documents. You can also, when you share it, maybe you want to say, oh, I'm going to make sure they sign in with their Dell Tech. That's an option as well. And it might have kicked any of you out if you weren't signed in. So you can be strategic with how you're sharing your links to make sure you can validate who's accessing your boards. This was awesome. Do you have anything to add?
Did you see the version history also, Jenna? Just in case somebody accidentally deleted the whole thing or a huge chunk of it.
So I want to show a couple of things actually. So under tools, you can see the activity dashboard, and you can kind of see if they've shared it with anyone else and who's done what. And at the top, I can see all the version history, and I can open it up. And I can see what everyone has done and when, and I can go back to the original, and I can even restore it, which is a great feature. So even myself, if I messed up and I deleted too much and I can't undo enough, you can always just revert back through the version history. That was a good point, Laura. Thank you for sharing that too. I love it. All right. Any questions before we move on?
This just makes it feel less frightening to share it with other people.
Yeah, exactly. I thank you guys for all participating, because if we want our students to use it, we need to know the student experience too. So thank you guys for entertaining us and trying it out too. All right, I'm going to head back over to just a couple more strategies we have to share.
Excellent. So we wanted to point out one more time, think, pair, share, because it really is a fairly elegant strategy, but so simple. All it really happens is you pose a question or your scenario, and you allow students to think, that's the think part, for about a minute. And then you allow them to turn and talk to someone next to them. They don't even have to move. Um, Psychology shows that even if you are talking on the right-hand side of the room, you're doing your lecture, you stop talking, you cross the room, and the students watch you move, and then you start talking on the other side of the room, that provides some kind of a brain break for students. So to Christina's conversation before, that takes 10 seconds, right? And that can provide enough of a break that at least they can continue for a little bit longer, right? But think, pair, share involves that minute of allowing them to think, and then they turn and they talk to someone next to them. So they have that engagement just with that shoulder partner or with someone who's right behind them or right next to them. And you allow them a couple minutes for that because they're sharing ideas together. And then, and maybe you circulate the room so that you can hear some of the things going on. You can see how you might do this in breakout rooms, though, in Zoom. And then you invite the students to share their paired thinking. And maybe you just do a few representative students. If you have 10 groups, you don't necessarily have to have 10 sharings. Depends on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish with this. So just, we wanted to point out think, pair, share one more time, just because it is such a quick and easy way that you can use. Again, don't use it every time, all the time, to the point where, oh, I can't believe we're going to think, pair, share again, right? But it's something that's a nice treat every once in a while, and we're shaking it up with some of these other ideas. Here's another one. Crowdsourcing is a little more involved in time. But you provide a whiteboard. It can be real or virtual. So it can be something they would write on in front of you, or it's something that could be virtual. And you're going to direct students to write everything that they know about a topic. That's how you're crowdsourcing, getting all the ideas. We're making sure that we're accepting of all of the ideas also. It's kind of like the brainstorming section, right? Where we let everybody say what their ideas are. The earth is actually a cube, you know, whatever. We let everybody share everything, and then we can analyze it later. Because then we're going to have our students categorize that collective knowledge. What kind of groups can we put it in? Remember, we're using those higher order synthesis skills or evaluation skills. And then finally, the instructor can address the knowledge that is expressed and can correct any misconceptions. So we have an idea that the Earth is a cube. Here are several pictures from outer space that show that it's spherical, and several gravity laws that show that it's also supports that it's spherical, you know, whatever you need to do, whatever your topic is, whatever your subject area is. But we were excited to find that you can use whiteboards in Zoom, of course, as Jenna had mentioned, but you can also use them in Canva. So, and Canva comes with some templates too. It's beautiful. So Jenna's going to walk you through some Canva use for crowdsourcing.
Yeah. We love Canva and CCIT, that's for sure. And some of you guys may be fans as well. So Laura has designed this whiteboard. This was from a template, and you do have a lot of free templates that you have access to on Canva. And then you'll see that there are some sticky notes that I can edit. They're grouped together, so you can slide them around and put them in categories. But say right now there's only 5. You can right click on it and duplicate it, or hit Control D. So maybe before class, if you want to use this, you would maybe duplicate a few of these so they're like stacked up. So as students use them, more are still there. So that's a strategy maybe thinking about ahead of time, or you can do it on the spot. It takes just a second to duplicate them. So I'm going to zoom in because I need some better eyes myself. And so this one says kindness to others, treating people with respect. So how can I show kindness to others? I could be an active listener. So when they share something with me, I'm going to make sure I'm making eye contact, that I'm asking engaging questions, and use a posture that shows that I'm actively engaged in the conversation. So there's a lot of different ways that you could use this. For crowdsourcing, maybe you have all of your students put their sticky notes down the side, not in the buckets. And then we as a class could even on the board in front of everyone, drag and sort them collaboratively or give everyone an opportunity to do so as well. So there's a lot of different uses for this, and we do want to give you guys a chance to try out the stickies as well in here. So I'm going to drop in the chat our Canva link. See if you're able to hop on.
And
Oh,
then, Jenna, to point out at the bottom of the screen, when you get in there, those Post-it notes, they do look small, but at the bottom of the screen, that's how you can zoom in and zoom out. That's an easy way to do it. Just, I wanted people to know because like, in case you need glasses like I do.
no, that's a great call out. You're right, because the whiteboards in Canva are ginormous. So the zoom feature is necessary. A lot of you guys are already in. And you know, Andrea, I'm so glad you did this. Andrea, I'm gonna pick on you and I apologize. So what we can even do in the future is we can lock things so they stay in place. And so you can only move the stickies. I'm shocked the template didn't have that, to be completely honest with you. I'm glad that you did that.
And we hadn't discovered that yet. So
No, we
I
haven't.
love that you're testing it out. Sometimes it's fun to find out what you can break.
Right.
Right,
This
Daniel?
is
That's an engineering
awesome.
thing, right? Can we break it?
Just don't break Canva on me, please.
Yeah.
Please. No, this is so cool. I love that you guys are all in here. Canva has so many great features. This is just one of many. You don't need to use a Canva template, right? You can just pull up a Zoom whiteboard. You can use just a whiteboard. There's a lot of different ways to use crowdsourcing. Cool.
I'm sorry, Jenna. How did you make it bigger again? I'm sorry.
No, great question, Marsha. It's down at the bottom right where it says page 1 of 1, and mine's right now at 40%. I
Gotcha.
can use the dial. Yep. I'm
Got it.
glad you asked
Thanks.
that. Yeah. Cool. We're going to read through these because we all need some good vibes today. So let's see. Kindness to others. Take time to try to understand them. Absolutely. Always be positive and optimistic. Oh, the other ones, I feel you. We're still navigating and editing. This looks awesome. Oh, and if you notice, you can see the name of the individuals if they're signed in. Like I can see where Marsha's working right now. It's a nice little collaborative tool. Cool.
I put a little comment in the chat, like, how do you
Yeah.
create a new sticky note?
So we would have to duplicate one that already exists. That's a good question. So if you click on it, you can right click and do duplicate or Control D. If I know how many students I have in a class, I probably would duplicate a lot of them and leave them on top of each other. So as I move them, you can have them already there. But I've noticed that my students are better at technology than I am. So
Now, Andrea, if you were in the system, you're trying to make things, you decide you don't like that Post-it note, something like that. Over on the side, there are elements in the black bar on the left-hand side, and you can drag other pictures from there. I don't know if I would tell all my students about that at first, because then that would just lead us down a rabbit hole. But I'll tell you that in your design, you could do things like that. If you, for instance, you said, I don't like the lined ones, I like blank ones better, you could use different ones. And if you want more information about how to use Canva, how to create with Canva, we have some PD that Jenna had presented. We have some new work coming into the process as well, and we can make sure that's in that resource guide that we give you too. If you're enjoying this and you're saying, yeah, I want more. And if anyone was here for our last one about active learning, we mentioned PMI, pluses, minuses, and interesting facts that students could create it with just a three column paper. They could even fold it in thirds. And so you didn't even have to print something in advance for them. But there's a PMI template on Canva. Woo! Who knew? But I discovered that this week. So that was really exciting.
Oh, I love it. You guys are awesome. I'm so glad you guys were able to get in and see these different tools with us today. We kind of want to pause and kind of give you a couple minutes to reflect on what we've talked about. Laura, do you mind recapping what we've looked at today?
Oh, I'd love to. So what we're asking you, right, this is kind of a call to action here. Which one of the following will you use next in your professional life? Are you going to use Post-it Parade? Maybe you liked the pro-con grid, maybe the snowball, social annotation of text. That was when we were using the Google Doc. The think, pair, share, going straight and easy that way, or the crowdsourcing with a public whiteboard somehow. Which one of those do you want to try next? Ooh, Celeste is going for crowdsourcing. We've got a pro-con grid and crowdsourcing. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Jennifer. Oh, a couple of social annotations too from Megan and Andrea.
I think that's my personal favorite too.
That would be fun too, Jenna. You could do it across classes. So if you knew someone who also taught, say, English 102, you could do it across courses too, because it's a collective thing. Crowdsourcing, excellent. Oh, Marsha, are you even seeing that in your setting that you could use that, right? Because you do a lot of the HR training.
Oh.
I try crowdsourcing via Canva and some sketch review. Beautiful.
Love this. You guys will have to always share back with us if you try something and all your successes. I know in the newsletter, Laura and I have a section for success stories. So if you ever try one of these strategies and you'd love to share, we'd love to interview you and include you on one of our newsletters.
It's not scary. It's actually
No.
really, yeah, it's a brief thing. It's a nice thing. It's fun.
Yeah.
Let us
Alright.
highlight you. Is Canvas similar to Padlet? Yes and no. They're both online. Daniel asked that. They're both online. And yes, you could create something. I think Padlet probably has a lower learning curve as far as creating all of the things if you wanted students to just be putting ideas up on a Padlet. Padlet, the one we did today, had 3 columns, but you can have it so that it just really, they just post all over the place. And so it's more like a bulletin board when you just stick your thoughts into it. It can be organized by a map on Padlet. And there's lots of interesting uses for Padlet. And we do have some training materials for that that's in the reference guide, resource guide that Jen is going to share, drop into the chat. But Canva, it's a lot for design. I liked that I found that this collaborative whiteboard was available, and you as an instructor can do a lot of really neat things with Canva as well, Daniel, and Jenna is discovering new things all the time. She's amazing. So we could explore that question even further if you like. Let me know.
Awesome. I'm so glad.
Do you have any other thoughts about that, Jenna? I mean, those seem like the foundational differences.
No. You're right. Canva is a big umbrella and it has lots of different features from presentations, videos, just images. The whiteboard is just one small feature of it, where Padlet's main goal is being that online bulletin board, but with different textures. Personally, I think Padlet is easier to implement right away. With your students, it's very intuitive. So you kind of have to read your audience to see what tech they're kind of used to. But with any tech, maybe early in the semester is actually demonstrating it, doing a fun one with them so they can get used to it and it's low stakes before you choose to use it in like a lesson at during the content and other things. That was a good question.
And you can add, of course, all kinds of things like you can with Padlet, but Padlet, the interface seems easier if you want to allow students to add an image or add a video, though it is a little bit easier, I think, in Padlet than if they were doing that. But with what we did today with the Post-it notes on the whiteboard, it was kind of a contained thing. It's another kind of Jamboard substitute too, that you could use that instead of say Jamboard, that if we're just doing it kind of that Post-it note feature, that it's another nice way to be able to collect it. But thank you for that question, Daniel. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all your kindness in the chat and for participating. It was great to see all of you today.
Thank you for coming.